Hello, it's Anna Hill here with the Farming Today podcast. The Environment Agency brings out its very first report into agriculture and water. It says the number of farmers breaking the rules on pollution has fallen, but 40% are still non-compliant.
We do target our farm inspections, and we have a larger number of our officers in areas where there are the highest risks of pollution.
First today, many of us have been sweltering in the third official heat wave of the summer. For farmers with livestock, there's the continual worry that their animals might be overheating or not drinking enough water. But the heat and lack of grass can have wider implications than you might imagine for animal health. Farm vet Josh Swain from Synergy Farm Health told me what farmers should be looking out for.
Cattle and sheep, they can be particularly vulnerable to heat stress. And that's partly due to the fact that they're ruminants. So the rumen is a big fermentation vessel. So it generates a lot of heat itself. Like us, they will seek out shade, reduce their activity. They will eat less, or they will time when they feed to cooler periods. So if animals are eating less, we will see issues with reduced growth rates, a reduction in milk production, and then we can get a knock-on effect to fertility. And that can be from the reduced feed intake, but also from the heat itself.
So what does it mean if it affects their fertility?
So we probably see like the conception rate drop by 50%. So it means fewer pregnancies. And actually that effect can persist for quite a long time. So in the early stages during the heat, we might see some early embryonic death. So the embryos just don't survive. But we will see poor fertility as a knock-on potentially several weeks after the heat events. That could last up to 8 weeks after we've had this hot spell. And even the calves that do survive, they have a reduced birth weight and they have reduced production later in life as well.
So it goes on to the next generation.
Yeah, and potentially onto the generation after that. Although the evidence isn't as strong, it potentially can affect the granddaughters.
In the east of the country and the south at the moment, there's very little grass. What's happening with their nutrition?
The grass growth has really dropped off with this hot weather. So farmers will be having to supplement feeding. That may be silage or haylage or hay bales. And what we're seeing some farmers having to do in the really hot weather is actually house their animals during the intense heat of the day and graze their animals by night instead.
So are these animals actually missing out on nutrients because of the lack of grass?
There's a poorer pasture quality and poorer forage quality out there, so not providing everything that the animals may need. But also their requirements might be slightly different in the heat. For example, certain electrolytes, just the same as us. If you're working outdoors all day, you need to make sure you've got enough sodium, potassium, magnesium going in. There's lots of different ways that farmers might supplement that and can go into the feed itself. We can put mineral licks out, and some people feeding silage will just add the minerals straight to that.
And what sort of impact does this have on sheep, this hot weather?
It's a very similar impact. The ancestor of our domestic sheep species are from an arid environment. They're from the Middle East and North Africa. So they are quite heat tolerant. Obviously, we've bred sheep to produce wool. And so it's extra insulation they don't need this time of year. So yeah, most of them would have been shorn to take that fleece off them. But same thing for our cattle, need to provide them with shade, plentiful access to water, and maybe some supplementary feeding whilst the pasture growth isn't there.
Do you think farmers should be planning ahead, longer term? Could this become a regular thing?
I guess with climate change, we expect to see more of these heat stress events. If we look around the world, there are dairy cows and livestock kept in hotter countries than the UK, and they have invested in mitigation strategies, really. So providing shade, additional ventilation, so things like fans, and even sort of sprinklers to help cool the cow, help with evaporative cooling.
I think that's what we all need, a bit of evaporative cooling. Farm vet there, Josh Swain. Fishing communities around the UK say they're struggling to survive because of multiple pressures on the sector. All week we're talking about the fishing industry, from marine conservation to the cost of getting a catch. Along the coast of County Down in Northern Ireland, boats are increasingly tied up in harbour because their owners say it's not worth putting out to sea. Kathleen Carraher went along to Fishers Cooperative in Kilkeel to talk to Brian Chambers, Chief Executive of the Anglo-Northern Ireland Fish Producers Organisation.
Keep me going for an hour, thank you.
Brian, we're in Kilkeel Harbour, looking out over the Irish Sea. Now, you and your colleagues, you've made a living along this coast for many years, fishing for prawns and crabs and lobsters. But you're saying that you're facing a total shutdown.
We're facing a perfect storm almost, with a variety of issues, from difficulty in getting local crew, a dependency on skilled workers coming from foreign countries, increasing spatial squeeze where we're under pressure from wind farms, from cables, marine protected areas, and then to compound it, the spike and the increase in the price of fuel.
Is there any single factor that's the most crippling one?
There's about 70% of the jobs on fishing boats in Northern Ireland at the minute are from skilled workers from foreign countries. We welcome these guys over, but the government is just making things very, very difficult for us.
What are the particular problems?
There's two main types of visa. There's a transit visa, and the restriction with that is that the guys have to fish outside of 12 miles. So that doesn't really work for Northern Ireland because our geography sort of confines us. We have the Republic of Ireland on one side, we have the Isle of Man, we have Scotland, so the amount of area is very limited. The other option is the skilled worker visa, because it opens up the whole of the Irish Sea and gives us a lot more opportunities. But as we've made that concerted effort to move to a skilled worker visa, the government just continually seem to move the goalposts. They increased the salary threshold limit to, it's about 41,000 now, which just is leaving it economically not viable for the job that we're doing. On top of that, we have to pay the cost for the guys to come from the Philippines and Sri Lanka, Ghana, these different places. We were running English language classes in all the ports, and as we were doing that, the government just decided we'll just increase the English language test. So it's practically now university or degree level. They're all skilled men, but they're skilled in what they do, and that's fishing. What we really need is some kind of bespoke visa to give us a bit of a window.
Why is it so difficult to get local workers?
Historically, whenever locals went fishing, they were self-employed and they got a share of the catch. In this day and age, for young ones going to get a mortgage or bank loans, they don't look that favourably on self-employed people going when their wages are maybe a wee bit up and down. Some of the guys that are in the industry, they're taking their skills to the offshore sector now. They're getting a steady wage, and it's very difficult for us to compete with big wind farm companies and offshore renewables.
What can you do then about the recruitment issue, for example?
We're producing a couple of promotional videos and to give anyone that wee insight into what it entails. We've come through a lot of tough times and fishermen are very adept, but we're just struggling. It just seems to be the wind's always in our face.
The Northern Ireland Minister with responsibility for fishing, Andrew Muir, told Farming Today that while decisions on visa routes, salary thresholds and language requirements rest with the Home Office, his department will continue to engage with industry representatives and ensure that their concerns are communicated to the relevant UK authorities. The Home Office say that net migration must come down, and it is vital that industries look to the domestic workforce to fill vacancies and end reliance on overseas labour.
Kathleen Carraher reporting. The Environment Agency has produced its first ever annual report into agriculture and water in England. It takes data from the last 5 years to assess the impact of agricultural pollution from farms and how water availability is being managed. The headlines are that over the last 5 years there have been 19,018 inspections and 49 serious Category 1 pollution incidents caused by farming. Non-compliance with water regulations has dropped, but 40% of farmers are still breaking the rules. I spoke to Nicola Appleton, the Deputy Director of Agriculture and Land at the Environment Agency.
So the report provides a transparent and evidence-based picture of both agriculture's environmental performance and the ways that we are working with farmers to protect the water environment. And the reason it's come out now is because our farm inspection programme has grown significantly. And so with it has the data and evidence we have. So we want to be able to show where progress is being made, but equally where further improvement is needed.
Can you explain how you inspect and whether it's making a difference?
The majority of our farm inspections are face-to-face on farm. We will target our farm inspections based on where there is the highest risk, both in terms of activity and sensitive water receptors primarily. The farm inspector will take an advice-led approach, which means that they will talk through with the farmer any areas of non-compliance and then agree an action plan. We do carry out a proportion of inspections remotely. It's roughly around 10% of our inspections currently, and we will do those through the use of satellite imagery and look for certain areas of non-compliance on a farm. So particularly things like where we can see livestock feeders close to watercourses, nutrient flow pathways, so areas where it looks like there's a greater enrichment of the area, and that will demonstrate additional nutrients flowing into the watercourse.
You're meeting your targets for inspections, aren't you? So how much difference has it made actually alerting farmers to what they're not doing quite right?
It's starting to make a real difference. We started the increased farm inspection programme in 2021 following an increase in funding from DEFRA, and we now conduct at least 4,000 farm inspections per year. And we are really starting to see action being taken. More than 19,000 improvement actions have been completed since 2021. Farmers are taking the advice that we give seriously. If there is a more serious impact or potential impact, we will take stronger action. But we are finding that more farmers are reacting well to the advice and are actually taking action to improve the water environment.
As you say, non-compliance with regulations has fallen, but your figures still show that 2/5 of farms are still breaking rules. Do you know why, and what are you going to do about that?
On average, we have found that there's at least one non-compliance in half of the inspections that we complete. That can range from easily fixed to farmyard maintenance issues, such as repairing broken guttering or putting in place a nutrient management plan, to more complex, such as inadequate slurry storage. So we do see a range there, but we are finding that farmers are working together with us on the solution.
In the period that covers this report, there were 49 serious Category 1 pollution incidents caused by farming activities, but only 36 successful prosecutions. How can you improve that?
Partly through our increased farm inspection programme. The majority of serious pollution incidents are related to the slurry storage and management, but partly by being firmer on those that do pollute. So we take an advice-led approach, but we will take enforcement action. We do target our farm inspections, and we have a larger number of our officers working in areas where there are the highest risks of pollution.
Nicola Appleton, Deputy Director of Agriculture and Land at the Environment Agency. That's all from us. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Rebecca Rooney.